The EU's link tax is an epic fail for the mainstream media. Hello everyone, this is Mr. Obvious, bringing you the obvious. And today on 9 to 5 Google. Google reveals 45% traffic decline to news sites with snippet-less search results due to the EU's Article 11. Now, for those of you who don't know, the European Union, yes, the coalition of different European countries into one fake country that basically share a currency, and all of the little countries have to listen to the EU. It's looking more and more like a totalitarian dictatorship every passing day. More than once, they've tried to pass legislation in their fake country to attack and control tech companies around the world. So one of the crazy things they've tried to do is tax links. So let's take a look at this story and see what the consequences of their actions are. Last month, Google tested the impact of search results that lacked snippets, headlines, and images to comply with the European Union's proposed Article 11. Ahead of the copyright directive being finalized, the company shared how news publishers could see a 45% reduction in traffic. After talks between European nations on the copyright directive stalled last month, legislators in the coming days are set to finalize the text. Google reiterates its support of updating copyright legislation to the digital age. However, it is very vocal against Article 11 and 13 due to unintended consequences. Article 11, known as the link tax, forces search engines and online news aggregators to pay licensing fees when displaying article snippets. This is aimed at helping news publishers by requiring tech giants to sign commercial licenses to use summaries in their products. Google argues that these snippets encourage viewers to click through to the publisher's sites. So essentially, this is what the link tax is trying to do. If you go on a search engine like Google and you look for the news, you see different news stations. Here you can see CNN, The Washington Post, CBS News at 8. And you see headlines giving you a little bit of context as to what's going on, what the article is about, why you should actually click the article. And it shows a thumbnail, so you actually have an idea of what you're looking at. However, at least for European news companies, if Google search displays, let's say, the BBC, and they post a headline or a thumbnail, they will be charged a link tax. Apparently, the story goes that this is supposed to help mainstream media companies get more money, because the idea is, oh, well, search engines they're taking our money. They're making money off of our content. How dare you? So they want to tax it, and apparently this will help media companies recover losses or whatever nonsense they're pushing. However, here's the reality. Do people really think that Google, one of the greediest and most corrupt companies in the world, is going to pay this link tax? No, they're not. What they're going to do is get rid of the headline, get rid of the thumbnail, get rid of any summaries, and just basically put a blank link. That way, they don't have to pay for anything. However, what happens when you take out context? What would happen, for example, if I uploaded videos with no title, no image, and no summary? Would anyone, and I do mean anyone, really be interested in clicking that link to a video? Maybe. I mean, some people like to live on the wild side. The problem with this is most people are not. And that's why Google, after testing this, has shown about a 50% decrease in clicks, because people aren't going to click through something they can't even see. It's like Russian roulette.
My mom always said life was like a box of chocolates. You never know what you're going to get.
So last month, Google conducted a search experiment to understand the impact of the proposed Article 11. This included news results in search that only featured URLs, very short fragments of headlines, or no preview images. The company reports that all versions of the experiment resulted in substantial traffic loss to news publishers. Oh boy, I do declare, even in a moderate version of the experiment. Now, what would Google's voice be? I'm sorry, Dave, I can't let you do that. Even a moderate version of the experiment where we showed the publication title, URL, and video thumbnails led to a 45% reduction in traffic to news publishers. Our experiment demonstrated that many users turned instead to non-news sites, social media platforms, and online video sites. Another unintended consequence of the legislation that aims to support high-quality journalism. Searches on Google even increased as users sought alternative ways to find information. Beep bop, boop beep. Submit to our totalitarian authority. We are Google. We are everywhere. As an alternative, Google suggests that Article 11 allow the sharing of facts and the use of traditional limited previews, whether text-based snippets or other visual formats like thumbnail photos, which provided needed context for web users. The company also believes that the copyright directive should let publishers grant free licenses to tech companies, which is currently prohibited in the draft proposal. Meanwhile, Google could shut down Google News in Europe as a result of Article 11. You know, it's really amazing to me that the EU, which is by all means a fake country essentially, thinks that it can bully and control everyone. They actually think they can push their totalitarian policies, their far-left regressive ideology on the entire world. They actually think they can boss around the United States? Well, let me tell you something. As a proud American, do you remember what happened the last time that a country had the nerve to attack one of our harbors? The EU doesn't stand a chance. And frankly, I think a lot of people, including countries in the EU, are getting tired of the EU bossing everyone around, trying to push stupid legislation, and trying to control free speech. You know it's bad when even Google is crying foul. Beep bop boop beep. It's not realistic to expect that online services would be able to put commercial licenses in place with every single news publisher if it's only payment and not quality that decides which headlines users get to see. The results would be bad for both users and smaller emerging publishers. Beep bop boop beep. Submit, you mortals. On Article 13, Google argues that holding services directly liable for any copyright infringement in the content that people shared on their platforms would harm the thriving creative economy in Europe, including the YouTubers' creator community. Namely, Google could block some YouTube videos on the continent. And here is where Google truly exposes itself as a hypocrite and a liar. Companies that act reasonably in helping rights holders identify and control the use of their content shouldn't be held liable for anything a user uploads, any more than a telephone company should be liable for the content of conversations. We are committed to protecting content, but we need rights holders to cooperate in that process. The final text should make it clear that rights holders need to provide reference files of content and copyright notices with key information like URLs so that platforms can identify and remove infringing content. Okay, so did you guys actually hear that? Did you hear what Google said? Companies shouldn't be held liable for what people upload any more than a telephone company should be liable for what people say in conversations. That sounds dangerously like a pro-free speech argument. However, here's the kicker. Google's basically acting like it only applies when it's about them. They only support free speech when it impacts their search results. They only support free speech when it costs them money. They don't give a damn about free speech. How hypocritical is that? That's the same argument that many people have been trying to say for years on platforms like YouTube. The company is not liable for what people say. Same thing with Twitter or other social media companies. They are not liable for what people say. So they have no right moderating content. They have no right to censor people. They have no right to suppress free speech. Google doesn't. The EU doesn't. None of these dirty-ass organizations have the right to censor free speech. But at least this time, they're eating each other alive. Because the EU is trying to tax links, Google's not having any of it, so they're just not going to show information. People will not click on those sites. So this legislation, which was made to help the news organizations, the mainstream media, is actually going to hurt the mainstream media. This is why you don't push idiotic legislation like that of Article 11. But that, my friends, is merely the obvious. Well, that's all for now, folks. Let me know what you think about this Article 11 and the EU and Google, because seriously, I'm getting tired of it. I think a lot of people are getting tired of all these companies and all these organizations trying to lord over us, control us, and suppress our free speech. Anyways, thanks for watching. This has been Mr. Obvious, and I'll see you all next time.